Coming up on show 904, we take a deep dive and we discuss what's important. What can we take out from Tesla's Q3 financial results last night? Also on the show today, we look at all the cars they mention, the latest battery plans they've got for storage, for solar, and the various factories they're building all around the world. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're listening around the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. Thursday, 22nd of October today. My name is Martin Lee, and I go through every EV story so you don't have to. Now, this isn't going to go super deep into the various kind of balance sheets of Tesla because there's plenty of blogs and websites and financial YouTube channels that'll do all of that. So I've tried to pick out the important things that you need to know about Tesla, what it means for their competition, and the kind of cars that you and I want to be buying now and in the future as well. The big headline today, 5 consecutive quarterly profit results. That is 5 quarters in a row of making money about making EVs, and that proves the business case of electric vehicles. You know it and I know it, but there's people out there, there are doubters, there are naysayers, there's even very, very well-funded campaigns to try and make EVs almost like doubtful in people's minds about things like how long batteries last, and then they've all got to go in landfill, and they last, then go 20 miles, don't they? So you know who those people are, like you know who they are funding those campaigns. We all know who they are, and they are slowly seeing an erosion of the old world, and you and I know what this new world looks like. We can't wait to get there, and Tesla are proving it, and proving that you can make EVs and you can make them profitably. And you can even make them without relying on that good old favourite that I see online, regulatory credits. And people saying, well, if it wasn't for those, well, Tesla wouldn't be making any money. But yes, they did make some money from regulatory credits. About $400 million this quarter, $1.2 billion over the year. What are they, by the way? Certain states in the US require car makers to sell a certain number of, as far as I understand it, I'm not in the US, a certain number of zero-emissions vehicles. If they don't do that off their own back by selling their own models, they can purchase those credits from other car makers that includes Tesla. And actually, it would be very nice to have any business making $1.2 billion full stop, but let alone having a bit of your business that makes $1.2 billion in the first 9 months of the year. $400 million a quarter from selling some bits of paper. Very, very nice work if you can get it. I'll say this now, by the way, and remember, although who could forget, all of this news is against a backdrop of a global pandemic which shut down car makers, including Tesla, although, of course, they've been increasingly relying on their Shanghai and Chinese production, which did open up sooner than the West because they were ahead with COVID. Earnings call featured Elon Musk, the CEO, Zach Kirkhorn, he's the CFO, Drew Baglino, he's the man who you may have seen on Battery Day on stage with Elon Musk. He's the Senior VP of Powertrain and Energy, I think, and also the VP of Technology. There was Carl Peterson, he's Tesla's Director of Engineering on the call. It's amazing to have access to these kind of people and hear what they have to say. Record revenue in the quarter. In 3 months, they brought in almost $9 billion of revenue. $8.8 billion of revenue. It's huge. That's up from $6.3 billion this time last year. On hand, they have almost $15 billion of cash and cash equivalents. It's $14.5 billion. Now, yes, they did raise $5 billion with the capital raise recently over the summer, but still, that's only accounting for a quarter of the cash that they have and equivalents on hand. And this is great news because it positions them with strength, with surety. And there must be people out there who haven't bought an EV, haven't bought a Tesla or bought a startup, like placed an order for a Lucid or a Rivian or whatever, because there are some people in the world who would think, well, I don't know if they're going to be around in the future to be serviced. And I've read these articles about Tesla going bankrupt, and you know who those people are on social media who desperately want to see Tesla fail and all EVs fail. Having 15 billion quid in the bank, I think, is a pretty good argument to say, we're okay. We're okay now. It was wobbly at a time. They were trying to scale Model 3. There were days in the past of Model S when they just had to get to the end of the week and make payroll at Tesla. Those days are long, long, long gone. Revenue, like I say, from credits was $400 million. The target this year is still to make the target they gave, the guidance that they gave us pre-COVID. That's 500,000 cars, which smashes the previous record for Tesla. Look, and even if they miss it by a car or 50,000 cars, it will be incredible. Tesla say, achieving this target depends on increases in Model Y and Shanghai production. Now, Model Y is only made in California right now. The Model Y will be made in China, but not till the end of the year. In China, they're only making Model 3, so it relies on Fremont and Shanghai doing the business, and they've got to deliver. Remember, by the end of the year, there's Christmas, holidays, there's Thanksgiving in the way, there's kind of local holidays all over the place, there's New Year. Somehow, they've got to break their previous record and do 181,000 deliveries this quarter. It seems impossible, but they've proven us wrong so many times. If they do it, they'll hit their 500,000 cars this year. Now, one of the interesting things, I'll just jump forward a bit. One of the questions on the call that they do with the kind of, the institutional investors that are meant to be intelligent financial people who ask good questions, but more often than not, they're dubious. One of them was actually really good, and it was, how do you feel, Elon, about guiding to 1 million cars next year? When you look at the factories they're building, Berlin and Texas in Austin, could that be done? And it was great, because he was like, yeah, maybe. Like, okay, possibly. They said that it was in the vicinity. Let me quote Elon directly. In the vicinity. Well, that would be 100% increase this year. How many businesses making a physical product like a car? Not software, not SaaS products or cloud products, but making physical things that are at 9 billion revenue. How many double year on year? I don't know, but it seems amazing to me. 100% increase. And again, this isn't financial nuances, so I'll paint with broad brushstrokes. That means double the revenue from their automotive business, which could possibly mean double the money to spend on new products and projects, and double the investment, and actually more to the bottom line. This just seems like it's heading all in the right direction. Okay, let's talk about some specific... Oh, no, very quickly. There's a thing called stock-based compensation. They talk about SBCs on the call. And they were like, SBCs are 543 million. That is stock-based compensation. That is, in other words, driven by Elon's pay package. If he hits certain milestones, which he did earlier this year, then it unlocks... he's not getting paid that. It unlocks stock options. So that's what they're referring to. So that's nice. It's a nice payday for Elon Musk, right? Because, the man's got to eat. You've got to keep him in nice suits. And 543 million should do that this quarter. All right, let me read you out a quote from Tesla. I know I'm excited about this. I'm excited about what it means for the world of EVs. I'm pumped about the benefits for the wider industry, the confidence that it should give any other car maker to make EVs. If ever there was a doubt, which there isn't. Let me give you a quote from Tesla. The third quarter of 2020 was a record quarter on many levels. Over the past 4 quarters, we generated over $1.9 billion of free cash flow while spending $2.4 billion on new production capacity, service centers, supercharging locations, and other capital investments. While we took additional SBC expense, we know what that is. Gotta pay the boss. Our operating margin was 9.2% for the trailing 12 months. So looking back over the last year, the average operating margin is 6.3%. We expect our operating margin will grow over time, reaching industry-wide levels. Bada bing, bada bang, saying lots of nice things. I want to start with this quote, by the way. Hold on. Let me have a sip. I bought that earlier. That's a very nice one. Which I told my my baby. I said, let's buy Daddy some pink juice. Pink juice called Cabernet Sauvignon. I want to start with this quote, and it's, I found it profound. And I always start with Elon Musk on our quarterly calls. I always play you the audio. He has to wait for this because this quote, I need to print this out and put it on the wall and remind me, because I found it profound. This is the blueprint of Tesla. This is their ethos. I see people online still questioning Tesla, like, oh, how are you going to stimulate demand when everyone's bought the Tesla that they want? What are you going to do? Well, look, for the last 10 years, critics have been saying, well, you wait. When the other car makers come around, they're going to show them how it's done. Well, look, some of them are by making great cars, but not in the same numbers yet. And so this wasn't something said by Elon Musk. This was in the middle of a sentence. It was in the middle of a financial discussion. It's said by Zach Kirkhorn. He's the chief financial officer. So I think this will have passed by pretty much everyone. You won't see it reported. But listen to this sentence that their CFO said.
In addition to reducing the cost of the car, we're making the cars better. And that's the formula to sell the volume. That's what we're focused on.
I find that incredible. I find it inspiring to hear them say it out loud. Nobody else would have heard that. And if you are a competitor to Tesla, you haven't got to pay for industrial espionage. Just listen to their investor calls, because that's their blueprint. Okay, that sentence for me is in three parts. Listen again.
In addition to reducing the cost of the car, we're making the cars better. And that's the formula to sell the volume. That's what we're focused on.
Okay, first part, in addition to reducing the cost of the car. That bit tells me that Tesla is laser focused on making their cars cheaper, in addition to reducing the cost of the car. They're not talking about when we can raise prices, when we can add a couple of $1,000s. Because over time, the facts, what's actually happened, tell the opposite story. Tesla continue to make their cars cheaper. Only last week, we're talking about the Model S getting 2 price cuts. Not 1, but 2. Model 3 continued to get Model Y got cheaper. They're talking about making a profitable $25,000 car as well. When you add in running costs, which you and I know EVs are so cheap to run, it just blows away anything that still has an engine. Why would you possibly think making a self-charging hybrid is a good idea in the year 2020? I'm very confused by these other companies. However, let's look at the second part of that sentence. So he says, in addition to reducing the cost of the car, we're making the cars better. That's the second bit. They're constantly improving. What other car company has a group of fans, if you want to call them like fanboys, fangirls, whatever, but like they have a release schedule of over-the-air updates for their cars? You know, even the way they name them like software updates, and they come regularly. And that's because it reflects the roots of Tesla's Silicon Valley background and the kind of people who work at that company, the kind of people who want to work at that startup mentality, who want to change the world. And if they're software engineers, you know, where do you want to work? Where do you want to work? Do you want to work at XYZ, car maker who has some pretty cruddy in-car entertainment? Or do you want to work for an EV startup or even EV company? Even, I'll put VW in there as well. They're doing great things with their software division and spinning it off. And they understand now that software is a key part to EVs. Others don't yet, and they will need to if they want to survive. But you've got to say, like, if you're in California and you're a Google, you're a Facebook, you're a Twitter engineer, software engineer, why would you possibly think working for a car company is a good idea? But Tesla don't operate as a car company. So, second part, they're constantly improving. And that's the hardware. They're putting in things like the heat pump to the Model 3 and all those kind of things. A third part of that sentence is, and that's the formula to sell the volume. That's what we're focused on. It's literally in black and white. If you look at the transcript, he says, this is our formula. This is the secret sauce. We want to sell volume. There you go. There's a car company there. Well, Tesla's not really a car company, but they're many things. Where they've said, and if you listen to what they say, we want to make cheaper cars, better cars, and in big volume. That's it. That's the plan. Anyway, I heard it. The alarm bell went off when I heard it. I want to bring it to you on the podcast. I don't think anybody else would notice that, but it rang my bell. Anyway, let's play you Elon Musk's opening statement. Have a listen to this. It's an edited version, by the way. I should say that because obviously I've changed what the man actually said, but I've just tightened the gaps and the ums and the ers out of this. Have a listen.
Thanks, Martin. All right, so Q3 was our best quarter in history. We achieved the record production and deliveries, record revenue, record net income, both GAAP and non-GAAP, and record free cash flow of $1.4 billion. This is really due to the amazing execution by the Tesla team. Could not be more proud to work with such a great group of people. It's really kick-ass performance throughout the world. Of course, we had Battery Day, so we showed our plans for how we can expand in the future and improve core battery technology, core cell technology at the form factor level, chemistry level, and I think most significantly at the manufacturing technology level. Tesla's long-term competitive strength will be primarily manufacturing. This is counterintuitive, but I'm quite confident this will be what happens. We presented what the team's been working on for a long time. Well, batteries, we wanted to step back and really rethink batteries from scratch. First principle thinking, just look at the fundamental physics and say what, rather than compare to other products in the market, just say from a physics standpoint, if what's the limit of physics? What's the platonic ideal of a perfect cell, and how close can we get there? And that was our aspiration, and I think we've got a pretty good approach to it, which will only get better over time. And we went through all of the engineering solutions for every important part of battery design and production, and we'll continue to iterate on that and just recursively improve the core cell and battery technology. The result, we think, in a few years will be batteries that cost half as much and where the capital expenditures required are a third or less of what they are today. And we expect Giga Berlin will see our first battery cell production line at scale. Regarding the full self-driving beta release, the Autopilot team, again, just a really all-star team. I spent a lot of time with the Autopilot team, and there's just a lot of really talented people in that team who've worked incredibly hard to get the beta release out. So I just really like to thank them for their hard work, and it's just a very smart group of people. And I think we're starting very slow and just very cautiously, because the world is a complex and messy place, and so we put it out there last night, and then we'll see how it goes, and then probably release it to more people this weekend or early next week, and then just gradually step it up until we have hopefully a wide release by the end of this year. And of course, as the system collects more data and it becomes more robust. It's sort of like, how does Google as a search engine get better? It's because everyone is programming it by asking it questions all the time and clicking on particular links. So it's got this great feedback loop, and that makes it an extremely effective search engine. It's the same thing for autonomy. Having on the order of 1 million cars that are providing feedback and specifically feedback on strange corner case situations that you just can't even come up with in simulation. This is the thing that is really valuable. It's not like the obvious stuff. Obvious stuff you can do in simulation. But weird corner cases, only reality can give you that. So but we're able to say, okay, we need to train the system on this corner case situation, and look for examples so we can then train against those examples and improve some very esoteric corner case. The system is designed such that even if you have no connectivity whatsoever and you're in a place that you have never been to before and no Tesla has ever been there, the car should still be able to drive, just like a person. That is the system that we are developing and aiming to release this year. Then in terms of capacity build-out, we're making progress on 3 major factories. We're continuing to expand Shanghai significantly, which is going incredibly well. The Tesla China team is just, incredibly good. Super smart, work hard. It's like, I'm always amazed by how much progress the Tesla China team makes. It's beyond all reasonable expectations. And then we're under construction in Berlin and Austin. So also making good progress there. For Berlin and Austin, we do expect to start delivering cars from those factories next year, but because of the exponential nature of the spool up of a manufacturing plant, especially one with new technology, it will start off very slow at first, and then become the output will become very large. Just in general, manufacturing follows the S curve, and and I think sometimes people, if they haven't spent a lot of time manufacturing, kind of think that once you have a factory, you can just sort of turn it on and it's at capacity. But it will typically take about 12 to 18 months to reach capacity, and that is a very fast period of time, especially for new technology. So, yeah, I'd say 12 to 24 months even. So generally what I see is the manufacturing capacity is underestimated in the beginning. Then it's sometimes overestimated because this is an S-curve. It goes exponential to linear to logarithmic. It's actually an incredibly hard thing just bringing a production plant to volume technology. Because you can actually think of it like you've got, to first order approximation, 10,000 unique parts or processes, all of which operate on an S-curve, and with a bunch of uncertainty and you can just slide 10,000 S-curves on an X-axis, and that's what bringing up a large automotive plant is like. And which one's the laggard, which one's the leader, it's very difficult to tell, and it's constantly changing. So it's really one of the most difficult challenges I've ever seen. In conclusion, thank you. All we've achieved would not be possible without the incredible hard work of tens of thousands of Tesla employees and all the people at our suppliers as well. I'd like to thank our suppliers. We continue to grow as fast as we can while focusing on cost control and improving quality. And ultimately, the best company will be that which makes great products at an affordable price, and that is our goal. I think I've never felt more optimistic about the future of Tesla than I do today.
All right, some good stuff in there. I'll try and pick out what we need to talk about. He said that the importance of 1 million cars providing a feedback loop for corner case situations like Google is important to them, and that's something that you absolutely must remember. 1 million cars in the fleet, driving around, providing constant data of self-driving, and hateful self-driving as a name, but, their advanced driver assist system. Tried this, it worked. Tried this, it didn't work. It's a feedback loop. Now, Elon Musk does compare it to Google, and and if you put a search into Google and it makes a mistake and throws up a duff result, you hit the back button. If full self-driving goes wrong, you hit a person. So the stakes are somewhat higher by comparing it to Google, but I get what he was saying. He also said that because of the nature of the spool-up of a new plant with new technology, that Berlin will start very slowly. Remember that when people might be saying, Berlin's taking longer than Shanghai. Shanghai was 1 year, January to January, from groundbreaking to customer handover. It may not be the case in Berlin. It may be. It may just be another 3 months because it's a whole new plant with whole new technology, new ways of making the cars, and the new batteries that we heard about on Battery Day. Yeah, that would have been rumoured, confirmed by Elon on Twitter, sort of. No, he had, but not elaborated. And then we got the details today that those new cells that they're making at their pilot line, the 4680 cells, the bigger ones that are more energy dense, that are cheaper to make, and will be their own product, will be put into the Berlin Model Ys from the first ones that come off the line. And those cells are going to be made in Berlin. So mega news. What else was standing out to me that I want to highlight to you without going through the balance sheet? The financials, they could be spending $5 billion a year quite easily on capex. I mean, this quarter alone was $1 billion in capital expenditure. They could easily do $5 billion a year. Even if you do $1 billion for the quarter, over the 4 quarters, that's 4. So you've got a company here who is able, with the revenue coming in, with the margins they've got themselves in a place. That perception that Tesla are still a plucky young startup is, somewhat outdated now, because they could easily spend $5 billion a year on capex. And that's all part of the plan. That's a huge amount of money on capital expenditure just to try things, to build things. And that puts them at an advantage over certain others. Let's talk about those new battery cells that Tesla are making themselves. There was a part of the call when they said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that 350 kilowatt charging for the cars won't be enough. If you want a Tesla truck, a semi-truck, to be charging at a megawatt, you need to develop new technology with new partners. And then that rung the alarm bells as well, because, of course, Teslas only charge at 250. So when they said that charging at 350 is fine for cars, I don't think they meant to say that. I highly suspect that was a slip of the tongue, and it tells us that supercharger V3s will be going up to 350 kilowatt charge speeds when they are ready. I mean, the technical specs of V3, if you look at the specs of the chargers on the little sticker on the side of them, I mean, they can charge well over 400 kilowatts, technically. So it's a case of the cars being able to take that current and the battery management of that, which, Tesla vertically integrate the charger, the car, the cell in the future. That's very doable. And so, right now the obvious 250 number is out there, but it'll be 350. That's huge. Another huge thing about the battery cells I want to point out to you is the pilot line in California will make the battery cells for the Model Y coming out of Berlin. Again, big news, confirmed news, that pilot line, and you think pilot line, you think small. The pilot line, with an annual rate this time next year, will have an annual rate of 10 gigawatt hours of cells, an annual rate being produced. That already puts that pilot line in amongst the 10 biggest cell lines in the world. So what do you do with them? I mean, there'll be some that are no good, but there'll be plenty in a year's time where the yield is good enough. And, there's only so many prototype semi-trucks you can make with them. So they confirm they are going to export them from California to Berlin, and the first Model Ys will be made with those cells before the cells are actually made in Germany. They talked a lot about annual capacity, how Shanghai can now make 250,000 Model 3s a year. Doesn't mean they are, because I think they made about 35,000 in Q3. That's not a number from Tesla, by the way. That's a thing that I read unofficial. But so that extrapolated doesn't get you to 250, because that's the annual production rate from now. Doesn't mean they'll make 250,000 Model 3s in China over the next year, but they might, because they possibly can. In Fremont, they've got capacity for 90,000 S and X. They won't use that because S and X aren't selling like they used to. Well, S got cheaper, might do. And there's a capacity for 500,000 3 and Y. Doesn't mean they are making that many, but that's the capacity at the moment, or at least by January. In Fremont, they say that we've increased the capacity for 3 and Y to 500,000 by restarting our second paint shop. I didn't know that. So second paint shop is now underway. We've installed the largest die casting machine in the world and upgraded our Model Y general assembly line. That's how they got to 500,000 capacity of the 3 and the Y in Fremont alone. Production should reach full capacity by the end of the year, or 2021 at the beginning of that. In Shanghai, they said we're currently building Model Y capacity at Shanghai Gigafactory and Berlin and Texas, where the cars will be made. But Model Y will be made from Shanghai by the end of the year, or possibly early 2021. We reduced the price of the Model 3, making it the lowest priced premium mid-size sedan in China, enabled by lower cost batteries. These are the new cobalt-free batteries they're using, and from CATL, and increasing the level of local procurement, so cheaper labour in China, cheaper local procurement, and cheaper cars. And of course, those cars now being shipped to Europe as of next Tuesday. I think the first ship leaves with a shipment of Standard Range Plus Model 3s, which of course have got great margin because they're made in China, but people paying European prices for them, but they're made in China. Don't know when they will arrive. I've got a couple of emails from my listeners. I won't read them today because it's going to be a long podcast already, but I'll read you those emails tomorrow on the show. I think it's... I need to check. I read it earlier, and one of my listeners, I think in Denmark, has ordered a Model 3, and they got the notification that it was going to be coming from China. Interessante. Right, Tesla is a correlation of startups, according to Elon Musk. He tweeted recently about this and talked more about it on the call, which I think is interesting because Elon Musk is saying that you should think of Tesla as a group of companies, as a group of startups, a dozen technology startups, including each product line and each factory as their own startup business. And so even if you add up the product lines, the S3, the X, the Y, the Cybertruck, the Roadster, and the Semi, so that's sexy cars without the ATV, that's 7 already. If you add in Nevada, Fremont, Shanghai, Berlin, Austin, that's 12. Buffalo, everyone forgets about Giga 2. We don't call it that anymore. That's 13. Car insurance, solar, storage, that's 16. Elon also mentioned autonomy is treated as a startup business. Chip making, service, sales, drive units, making their own motors, their supercharging business. Tesla insurance could be 30 to 40% of the automotive business soon, he said. And they got massive plans for that. And they treat these business units like startups. Now, VW did that recently. They spun off their software division because they realized that EVs and software are so interlinked, and that the way they've been doing software for their cars until now is not going to be fit for the future. So VW spun out that division of their company, and they're treating them like a startup and giving the freedom, because startups make mistakes. Like big established companies, and I've worked for both startups. I mean, literally, I've worked for a startup in the first week, where I came from a big company of 3,000 people, and the printer ran out of paper. And you look around, I was the assistant general manager, and you look around and you're like, the printer's out of paper? And someone's like, run to Staples. Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Like, that startup culture, for good and bad, right? But you make mistakes, and you move really, really quickly compared to big, lumbering old company. And it's really hard for companies that are making money to then, cut off their nose to make a little bit less money to be fit for the future. But I think with EVs, you have to do that. And that's what Tesla seem to be doing with treating their different businesses as startups and letting them fail and move fast. Startups also never finish. Like, a startup company is never done. It's only ever the latest version of that product. And so many products, if you like, are done. Like, let me think of an example to try and make sense of what may be a daft point that I'm saying. Okay, I bought some new glasses this week. They're very, very nice. I treated myself to I normally spend like £20-30 on cheapo specs because, they get wrecked. And I thought, you know what? Spend £100, which even then is that's not a lot of money for a pair of specs. But I bought some glasses, which for me is a lot of money for me. They will be the same today as they are they'll be worse in 2 years, right? They'll be scratched and beaten up. So that's a product. It's made and it's shipped. Whereas their cars get better constantly. Tesla's car, all EVs should, in theory, with over-the-air update, all EVs should get better over time. But also startups never sit back and go, oh, we're done. Like, well done, boys and girls. Done. Done a pub. Let's go. We're finished. They're never finished. They ship new software builds every week, for instance. All right, Cybertruck, talking of which, is getting better all of the time. I quote Elon Musk. I was in the studio last week with Franz and the team looking over the improvements on the Cybertruck. There are a lot of small improvements compared to what was unveiled. I think it's going to be better than what we showed, end quote. Production of the Cybertruck will depend only on Austin. It's dependent on completing the factory, and there are some new technologies with high hardness exoskeletons. Never been done before, so there's challenges. Semi-truck got a mention on the charging. We continue to develop the Semi, and in particular the mega chargers. We realised the 350 kilowatts or so for cars is not going to be enough. That's where that quote came from. So we're looking for something much more powerful, and we can achieve essentially charging the Semi during a driving break. We're working with other parties to make that a standard. That's all I can say. End quote. Sounds to me like they're referencing Charin then. It's spelled Charin. It's a consortium of companies. And without calling up the website in front of me, it's the likes of Ford, GM, VW, Mercedes-Benz, Tesla, industry companies like ABB. There's loads in there. And it's a group of people who are coming together to develop the CCS charging standard into a global charging standard. I mean, it already is, really. I mean, apart from, Tesla's proprietary technology in their superchargers in the US only, because obviously over here we have CCS on the superchargers, and then China is using a sort of combo of the new CHAdeMO. That's going to be China, and so apart from that, like, this is what Charin are doing. They asked for 5 bids, I think, last year. God, time flies, for commercial vehicle charging. I don't know which one was picked, but I know one of them has now been picked. I was speaking to one of the companies in Charin recently, an engineer from there, off the record, and he was saying that I work out what I can and I'm allowed to say. I will say that the work being done within Charin on commercial vehicle charging is next level stuff. And so whether Tesla's proposal was picked or one of the other 4 proposals was picked, whichever one they went with, Tesla are part of that consortium developing a standard for commercial vehicle charging. And, you're talking over 1 megawatt charge speeds. Crazy stuff. I don't know, but I suspect that's what they were referencing on the call. Finally, the Roadster got no mention. Zero. At this stage, the new Roadster is a branding exercise. It's a pretty picture on their website. Looks nice. Will they ever make it? Yes. Yeah, they will make the Roadster one day. It is entirely irrelevant to the bottom line, but it will be a Halo car. It'll be a smackdown, as Elon Musk says, to other combustion and EV cars. When it arrives, no one knows. Do Tesla even care? They got bigger fish to fry, and it'll make them, in the grand scheme of things, no money. So, if you're looking forward to a new Roadster, it's not going to be anytime soon. That's your show for today. Goodness, that was a long one, but I'm so excited about all of the brilliant news that we had to sift through today. And this was a highly edited show, by the way. There was a lot more we could have put in there. So I appreciate your time. I never take it for granted. And I invite you to leave a comment on the YouTube audio or on the podcast. You can email me or hello@evnewsdaily.com or on social media. I'd like to know your thoughts about my take. And, if you are in a position to correct me on anything or just give me some feedback, or if you are deep into the EV world and you've got a take on how I see it, because, we all see things differently, and, I don't want to live in an echo chamber. Do feel free to challenge any time, and I'd love to hear from you. Thank you to the patrons of this show. I literally couldn't make this show without the individuals and businesses who are the Patreon supporters. patreon.com/EV News Daily. This takes hours, and it's normally in the early hours of the day because it was gone midnight by the time I sat down to start working on this because of the time difference to the West Coast, and also because just to get it right and to sift through everything and to work out what you need to know. It takes a long time, and I would have to be doing other work that pays money. And so thank you to Patreon. And if that's you on there, thank you. Our premium partners online are Phil Roberts from Electric Future, Brad Crosby, Avid Technology, Porsche of the Village in Cincinnati, Audi of Cincinnati East, Volvo Cars of Cincinnati East, NationalCarCharging.com and AlohaCharge.com, Derek Riley, who has a brilliant YouTube channel called the EV Review Ireland YouTube channel, and Richard at rsimons.co.uk, the electric vehicle specialists on the south coast of the UK. RSYMONS. Have a great day. I'll catch you tomorrow. And I'd be very, very scared if I was still making self-charging hybrids.
Thanks, Martin.